inclusion of non-Muslims in Waqf board, and the criteria of a practicing Muslim of 5 years for Waqf donation. In effect, not a single change has been left unchallenged. Now, the main argument is that the entire act violates Article 26 of the Constitution specifically, that gives certain powers to religious groups to manage their own religious affairs, including property. Now, here's what transpired a few hours ago. Senior advocate Kapil Sibal, one of the lawyers representing the petitioners in the hearing, raised a question about the removal of Waqf by user clause, to which the CJI observed that there are genuine concerns as far as this provision is concerned. Sibal further went on to question how the state can have a say in Waqf Alal Aulad, which is a private sort of Waqf. The current act says that women descendants cannot be denied even if a private Waqf is done. In response, the Chief Justice mentioned that specific laws have also been made, including for inheritance for Hindus as well. In the new law, it particularly states that women descendants cannot be denied as far as Waqf proclamation is concerned. Now, Sibal even questioned the constitutionality behind the provision of assigning a government officer to take care of claims. To this, the Chief Justice inquired if the collector's decision is amenable to court's decision. SG Tushar Mehta told the court that they will be. Sibal argued that by voiding the declaration of protected monument as Waqf is not right. The Chief Justice countered him by saying that if it was Waqf before the protection came into being and was granted, then it will stay Waqf and therefore should not be considered a problem. Sibal also objected to the provision that scheduled tribes' land cannot be declared as Waqf anymore. Chief Justice reminded the court that already laws exist to protect the property of scheduled tribes. Lastly, Kapil Sibal also raised the issue of including non-Muslims in the Waqf board, and this has been questioned by virtually all pleas that have gone to the court. Justice Vishwanathan claimed that it's okay for properties and administration to be secular. In fact, the government has quoted previous rulings by high courts in this regard. Now, Waqf by user has become a big point of debate. Even court remarked what would happen to properties that are older in nature and therefore not registered. Here's what Solicitor General Tushar Mehta said when he was presenting his case to the court. He said from 1923 itself, registration of Waqf is mandatory statutorily. Even Waqf by user cannot be unregistered. He also told the court that it was followed in 1995 as well, the 1995 Act as well, where also the Waqf registration is mandatory. As of today, India has a staggering 8,72,324 immovable Waqf properties spread across different states and union territories. Half of these have no information available. 4,36,179 properties have no record available. It is believed these are the ones that have been deemed Waqf by user. Now, while the courts argue in the top court, what's unfolding on ground demands immediate action. 142 kilometers away from Tamil Nadu's capital city, Chennai, lies a village in Vellore that has fallen victim to yet another land grab claim by the Waqf board. Notices were issued to around 150 families stating that their land belonged to the Waqf board and demanding that they either vacate the land or start paying rent. The notices were issued by F. Syed Satham, who claimed that the land had been Waqf property since 1954. He demanded that residents enter into a formal agreement with the Waqf board and comply with the Waqf laws. The villagers who have lived on the land for generations and possess government-issued documents were shocked and protested at the district collector's office. They have sought protection and clarity, arguing that they've been paying panchayat taxes and have legal ownership of the land. The Vellore district collector has advised residents to not pay rent for now, and they're looking into the claims that have come from both sides. But remember, there's been no response from the DMK-led Tamil Nadu government so far that is opposing the amendments and claims that it is against Muslim interests. Despite these claims, Tamil Nadu government is batting for these Waqf boards, and they've also not changed their stance, but they have changed their stance as far as the 2022 case is concerned. You would remember a similar case had cropped up in Tiruchendurai. What they said then about that case versus what are they saying now? Just listen.
Tamil Nadu, in Tiruchirappalli district, entire village, running thousands of acres, were described as Waqf property. JPC came into Tamil Nadu. The district collector came to depose evidence, and the secretary of the revenue department came to the evidence. CEO of the Waqf board came to evidence. All three officers came to JPC, the chairman is sitting here, deposed evidence, the cock and bull story that has been built by you and expressed by you has been demolished.
This has nothing to do with the Waqf bill. If that land is used by Waqf, then they should go to court or seek relief. There is nothing wrong in it.
In fact, here's what is interesting. Tamil Nadu government had in fact enacted an amendment to the central Waqf law in 2010. That amendment enables Tamil Nadu Waqf Board Chief Executive Officer to order eviction of anybody they felt were encroachers. Madras High Court just last year had declared this legislation unconstitutional by the Tamil Nadu government. The judges held that encroachers on Waqf properties could only be evicted by Waqf tribunals established pursuant to the 2013 amendment to the Central Act, which has now been amended. They emphasized that the Waqf Act of 1995 is a central legislation, therefore state laws cannot override it. In other words, the Tamil Nadu government had given even more powers to the Waqf board than already in the previous existing law. On the other hand, our families like ones in Tiruchendurai and Vellore, and they were left at the mercy of just one order by the Waqf boards. The Waqf board claims are continuing unabated, even as the Supreme Court is now looking at the constitutionality of the new act. Is it not time to draw a line?
Over 150 families reside in this village near Vellore district. They received a notice. This is the notice that they received on the 14th of February this year, saying that the land, this place where they have been residing for the last 4 to 5 generations, that land belongs to the Waqf. And the notice says that either they should vacate the premises or they should pay the land rent to the Waqf board. And this, if I can show you, is the house, the property tax that they have been paying, and this is dated 14th February 2021. Now it's online, but in 2021 they did receive the property tax receipt. They've been paying property tax to the government. This was 110 rupees that they paid in 2021. Every year they have been paying property tax to the government. They have been also paying water tax to the government. They have been doing this for years, and now they are shocked that they have received this particular notice from the Waqf board. They say that they've been either asked to vacate or pay the land rent to the Waqf board, and they are now unsure of how to go about this. They are hoping that the collector's office comes to their rescue. This is the tax, the water tax that they've paid 1,200 rupees. This is the property tax. So they have been paying property tax, and they have been staying here for generations after generations.
போல வேலூர் மாவட்டத்தில் கொணவட்டம் ஆற்காட்டில் இருக்கிற விஷாரம் வேப்பூர் பல பகுதியில் இங்கே அரியூர் சொல்லக்கூடிய பகுதியில் அரியூர் தங்க கோயில் இருக்கிற பகுதியில் பல சொத்துக்கள் வக்ஃப் போர்டு சொல்லி கிளைம் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்க.
இப்போ இது வக்ஃப் போர்டில் சேருது அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு 150 குடும்பங்களுக்கும் தனித்தனியாக அவங்க நோட்டீஸ் அனுப்பியிருக்காங்க. இது ஏன் இது வக்ஃப் போர்டில் வருது, இது எங்களுக்காக தான் நீங்கள் வரி கட்டணும், இது எங்களுடைய சொத்து அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு.
Till it is the place of our work, if the place belongs to our work, they have to pay the land rent to us.
In Revanth village, the issue has come up to our notice. We are inquiring both sides on what is the claim of the land they have. So based on that, we'll send a report to the government, and then we will take action.
मैं यहाँ चेयरमैन था. हमारे जो ऑर्डर होते थे, बोर्ड के जो ऑर्डर होते थे, उसको जो है कोई सुपरसीड नहीं कर सकता, सिर्फ एलजी सुपरसीड कर सकता था. अब डीएम को चेयरमैन से और बोर्ड से ऊपर अगर आप बना रहे हो तो इसका क्या मतलब है, हमारी समझ में नहीं आता.
Let's go across to our guest. Joining us, Manoj Yadav is spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party, one of the parties that has challenged the new amendment. Rahul Ishwar, activist, and KV Lakshman, a journalist, also joining us. We are also looking forward to a couple of more guests joining us. But I want to begin with Manoj Yadav. Manoj Yadav, आप सुन रहे हैं? अभी अमानतुल्लाह खान की हमने बाइट चलाई, वो दिल्ली के वक्फ बोर्ड के हेड होते थे, वो ये कह रहे हैं कि जब हमारा ऑर्डर होता था तो हमारे ऑर्डर को तो सिर्फ एलजी चैलेंज कर सकते थे, आज आप किसी और को हमारे ऊपर बिठा रहे हो, मतलब कि लीगल जुडिशियल सिस्टम है या कोई डिस्ट्रिक्ट कलेक्टर है उनको हमारे ऊपर बिठा रहे हो, तो ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है। इन अदर वर्ड्स वो ये चाह रहे हैं कि वक्फ बोर्ड जो भी चाहे जो भी करे उसको कोई पूछने वाला नहीं होना चाहिए। क्या ये सही है? यही चैलेंज आप सुप्रीम कोर्ट में कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट ने तो यही किया है ना नए लॉ में कि चेक्स एंड बैलेंसेस होंगे।
नहीं, देखिए, चेक एंड बैलेंस तो बिल्कुल इम्पोर्टेंट है, उसमें किसी तरीके की कोई सवाल जवाब नहीं है। उसके लिए संस्थाएं जो हैं, चाहे वह तमाम सारे बोर्ड्स हों या और भी चीजें हों, वो सारी चीजें निगरानी करती हैं और सरकार की भी जिम्मेदारी है। जैसा उन्होंने कहा कि डीएम से पहले एलजी मॉनिटर करते थे और एलजी के माध्यम से ही हम सभी लोग चीजों को देखते और समझते थे। मैं एक बात जानना चाहता हूँ, माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इस बिल को लेकर जिस तरह की टिप्पणियां करी हैं और जो सरकार की मंशा को लेकर उन्होंने स्पष्ट किया अपना रुख कि सरकार की मंशा क्या है।
नहीं, उन्होंने ऐसा कुछ नहीं कहा, कोर्ट ने मंशा पे कुछ भी नहीं बोला।
अभी आपको मैं बता रहा हूँ, उन्होंने कहा कि जो मस्जिदें 14वीं सदी में, 15वीं सदी में और 16वीं सदी में बनी, उनके पेपर्स कौन दिखा पाएगा। तो क्या सरकार कल को जो वक्त पे मस्जिदें बनी है या जो उनके तमाम सारे मदरसे बने हैं, क्या कल सरकार ये डिसाइड कर देगी कि ये तो गवर्नमेंट की प्रॉपर्टीज हैं? तो
नहीं, जिन जमीनों पे ऑलरेडी डिस्प्यूट चल रहा है, जिसपे सरकार और वक्फ बोर्ड के बीच में डिस्प्यूट चल रहा है, उसमें वो डिस्प्यूट्स चलते रहेंगे। जिसमें कोई डिस्प्यूट नहीं है वो वक्फ बाय यूजर रहेगा।
अच्छा, जिन पे मान लीजिए मैं कह रहा हूँ ए जमीन है जिसपे डिस्ट्रीब्यूट चल रहा है, बड़ी जमीन है और प्राइम लोकेशन की जमीन है, तो कल सरकार ये लेके आएगी कि साहब ऐसा है, इस पे विवाद बहुत है, सरकार इसको अंडरटेक अपने अंदर ले रही है।
नहीं तो बट दैट प्रोविजन इज नॉट देयर, नो मनोज यादव, वो प्रोविजन इस लॉ में नहीं है।
कहाँ नहीं है?
आप बताइए ना कहाँ है।
एक मिनट, आप मुझे एक बात का जवाब देंगे? अयोध्या में सेना की जमीन पर सरकार ने क्या क्या व्यापारियों को जमीन दे दी? सेना की जमीन पे तो
उसकी बात मत करिए, आप वक्फ पे रहिए। नहीं, कंपैरिजन मत करिए ना, वो किसी और का जो डिस्प्यूट है उसमें क्या हुआ उसकी बात हम नहीं कर रहे हैं, इस पे लॉ बनाया हम उसकी बात कर रहे हैं।
जो सरकार सेना की जमीन दे सकती है, जो सरकार रेलवे की जमीन दे सकती है किसी को, वो वक्फ बोर्ड की जमीन देने में उसको कितनी देर लगेगी?
आप समझ नहीं रहे मैं क्या कह रही हूँ। आप दिस इज एग्जैक्टली द काइंड ऑफ फियर एंड पैरानोया दैट इज बीइंग स्प्रेड। अश्विनी दुबे इज अ सुप्रीम कोर्ट लॉयर also joining us, because yes, it is correct that the Supreme Court has raised queries of what happens in the aftermath of Waqf by user provision going away. So the Waqf by user provision has been debated quite a bit. I mentioned it at the start of the show that this has become the main bone of contention. The new law says that any existing Waqf by user that has registration stays, there can be no dispute over that. The disputes that are already ongoing on any Waqf property that has been declared Waqf by user, in other words, there are no papers, but the disputes exist with the government or any other party, those disputes will continue. But if that dispute is with the government in the interim, as the dispute continues in courts, it will be deemed to be government land. Now, there is a back and forth on this issue. Ashwini Dubey is joining us. Ashwini Dubey, the thing is that this is precisely the provision that is at the heart of this law. Most Muslim parties are objecting to this because they fear half of the properties claimed by Waqf boards today can actually be declared non-Waqf. We had the statistics running as well. And they also feel that existing properties can be willy-nilly be taken over by the government. How would you say the government can explain its position on this?
You see, one thing should be clear, that the Waqf by user refers to a property that is treated as a Waqf based on its long-term use for religious, charitable purposes without documentation.
Yes.
So one of the arguments that when something has happened 100 years back, you cannot rewrite it. So something which is in continuous existence. The law of the land also says there is a provision in limitation like the adverse possession. If somebody is continuously holding the possession and owner is not known, that property becomes the property of the person who is in possession. But where there is any dispute, that dispute is not settled yet.
Yes.
And if that dispute is not settled pending, the question is one. The question another which was said by the Supreme Court, that the properties which were declared by the court to be Waqf, and those properties will not be denotified or treated as non-Waqf. That's what the suggestions. Nothing was passed. The second was collector can continue with the proceedings on disputed work, but the provisions will not be given effect to, means the ownership will not go vested with the owner or the government.
Or the government just yet, yes.
Then members of the Waqf Council and Waqf boards have to be Muslims except ex officio members by citing Article 26, because Article 26 says that the freedom to manage religious affairs.
I'll come to that later. Let's stick to Waqf by user. But the question
Yes.
that also arises, Rahul Ishwar is also joining us. Before I come to land of ordinary citizens, like in the case of Munambam or in the case of Vellore or Tiruchendurai, the question that arises is, for example, the court itself raised the question of the Delhi High Court. They said, we have heard the Delhi High Court is Waqf land. Now, my question is, how was it declared Waqf by user when there is no religious activity taking place on it? Those questions have to arise. How are historical properties in India, 100, 150 years old, being declared Waqf by user when there is literally no religious or charity activity going on them? Then how is it Waqf by user?
I would humbly request our Muslim brothers whose apprehension I respect and I really value to introspect about these kind of claims. Somebody said Parliament, no, the entire Parliament is property.
There is a case on the Parliament land. It's not somebody saying there is a case on Parliament land.
Exactly. So these kind of outrageous proposition will really weaken their case. Yes, there are multiple layers in it. For example, like Supreme Court asked, is it possible to have Muslims in Hindu boards? Many Muslims feel apprehension. Even the Munambam church said they are having apprehension regarding the idea of non-Muslims in the Muslim board. So we can definitely debate it.
Yeah.
But please, I would humbly request, things like Section 40 are over-expansive. Section 40 is unlimited and over-expansive, and some kind of a reading down, some kind of a dilution or some kind of a elimination of that article as suggested by some, I would say we should read it down, should be there. Otherwise, what happens is, for example, Tiruchendurai in Tamil Nadu, where a 1,500-year-old temple and the spaces were claimed by Waqf, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely wrong.
You know what the DMK government said in that case? I ran that earlier. The DMK government said, oh, it's a cock and bull story. They said it in Parliament. Acres and acres of land has not been claimed as Waqf. Only 380 acres have been claimed as Waqf.
Yes.
That is the defense. That 380 acre includes a 1500-year-old Hindu temple.
Exactly.
Disregard that, but it's only 380 acres.
Just one submission I would like to raise. This is where our Muslim brothers are misled by the centre-left parties in over-appeasing them. See, that is not the way to go ahead. Our Muslim brothers should understand the sensitivity of all the communities are involved. For example, in Munambam, in many other places. See, these people lose their hard-earned money. In Munambam, I am from Kerala, this Farooq College has sold this land to these poor people.
Yeah.
Right now, after 50 years, claiming them as Waqf land, and they cannot sell the land. They cannot loan on
No,
their
this
land.
is same happening in Tiruchendurai. This is same happening in Vellore. The people there have paid money to buy this land. Some of the land is registered. They are paying taxes to the government, but now Waqf is saying you pay taxes or rent to us also because the Dargah owns the land. Now, I want to understand, KV Lakshman is also joining us. The DMK government today is saying, oh, if the Waqf has claim, then they'll claim, you go to court. Is this the attitude that they have towards their own citizens suffering under these enormous Waqf claims? The same 1954 Gazette that the DMK said was faulty, the same 1954 Gazette is being quoted now in the Vellore case as well. So are they going to say this Gazette is noting is faulty as well?
On this particular village, the entire nation's eyes will be focused on, and it puts the Tamil Nadu government in a fix. Because it is being seen widely as a political stance that the DMK government is taking, because the issue cropped up about 2 months ago. And the government, instead of solving it, has allowed it to linger on in the hope that maybe, what will happen in the Supreme Court. So now the delay, what the Tamil Nadu government has done in this is going to cost it in the run-up to the elections, because this issue is definitely not going anywhere away soon.
No, but look at the responsibility of the government there. They are not concerned about the citizen there. They are saying if Waqf has papers, they will claim you go to court. Earlier, the people couldn't even go to civil courts. This law is allowing people to go to courts now, but they are opposing this law.
They are opposing it, and it will now has to be settled but the collector has already said that they are examining both the claims and will send a report to the government. So, which of course will take its own time. So, unfortunately, on this particular issue, the Tamil Nadu government will have to pay a price in the run up to the elections.
Yeah, you know, I mentioned earlier, such has been the siding by several state governments with Waqf boards, that in Tamil Nadu, they actually passed an amendment to the Waqf Act, which is a central act to give even more powers to remove quote-unquote encroachers in 2010. Can you imagine? So instead of even a Waqf tribunal, which was unchallengeable earlier, they were trying to give powers to the CEO of a Waqf board to evict people. So if that law, that amendment had not been shut down by the Madras High Court, today the Waqf board in Tamil Nadu could have just ordered eviction of these people in Tiruchandarai and Vellore, and all of this, even claims versus counterclaims, would have not happened. This is what was going on under the name of Waqf. And we have bites of many other former chief ministers saying, we will give you this, we will give you this. आप मुझे बताइए मनोज यादव जी, जिस लैंड पे सालों से कोई रिलीजियस काम नहीं हो रहा है, कोई चैरिटी नहीं हो रही है, वो लैंड आगे लोगों को बेच दी गई है, उस पे कमर्शियल काम हो रहा है, ना कोई मस्जिद है, ना कोई मजार है, उसको आप वक्फ बाय यूजर कैसे बोल रहे हैं?
बड़ा अच्छा सवाल आपने किया है। मैं आपको धन्यवाद जरूर दूंगा इस बात के लिए और उत्तर प्रदेश का उदाहरण दूंगा। उत्तर प्रदेश में सिया वक्फ बोर्ड का कुछ मामला सामने आए जब योगी आदित्यनाथ 2017 में मुख्यमंत्री बनते हैं, और उस व्यक्ति का जो वक्फ बोर्ड, सिया वक्फ बोर्ड का अध्यक्ष थे, चेयरमैन थे, उस व्यक्ति ने जाके सीधे बीजेपी में शरण ले ली। कोई कार्रवाई बीजेपी ने नहीं की। एक और हमारी पार्टी के एमएलसी थे।
नहीं, आप मेरे सवाल का जवाब नहीं दे रहे ना। जिस प्रॉपर्टी पे
सवाल का जवाब
सालों से वक्फ का कोई काम नहीं हो रहा है, वो वक्फ वालों ने आगे बेच दी है या आगे रेंट कर दिया। फारूक कॉलेज का ये तो बड़ा प्राइम एग्जांपल है, उन्होंने लैंड बेच दी, अब कह रहे हैं कि हमारा वक्फ था इस पे, तो हमें वापस कर दो। ऐसे कैसे चलेगा?
मैं जिन लोगों की बातें कर रहा हूं, जिनका नाम ले रहा हूं, उनके मामला भी यही हैं। हाँ। कि उन्होंने वक्त की तमाम सारी जमीनों को भ्रष्टाचार की भेंट चढ़ा दिया। जिम्मेदारी सरकार की थी कि उनको जेल भेजे, उन पर सख्त कार्रवाई करे।
जिम्मेदारी आप सरकार पे डाल रहे हैं, लेकिन आप सरकार को ये भी कह रहे हैं कि आप इस पे हस्तक्षेप मत कीजिए।
इतने बड़े पैमाने पे सारी चीजों को डिस्ट्रीब्यूट, जमीनों को सही करने की थी, तो कम से कम एग्जाम्पलरी 2-4 जगह पे सख्त कार्रवाई।
आप मेरे सवाल का जवाब नहीं दे रहे मनोज यादव। आई हैव नॉट गॉट द आंसर टू माय क्वेश्चन अश्विनी दुबे। इज व्हेन फॉर एग्जांपल द दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट लैंड और पार्लियामेंट लैंड, लेट्स से इट वाज डिक्लेयर्ड वक्फ एट सम पॉइंट इन टाइम and it has since been used for all kinds of non-religious, non-charity works. How is it waqf by user?
Yeah, of course not. That's the distinction. That's the proximate link which is established by virtue of 1954 Act, then 2013 amendment. That has to go by this amendment. Look, the irony is that there are 3 types of court established in the country in the constitution, which is the union judiciary given in article 124 to 146. High courts in the states from article 214 to 231, subordinate court from article 233 to 237, which is called a civil court, which is empowered as per the constitution to adjudicate the property disputes. But here, if somebody says, board says, or the Mutawalli says that, look, I have a reason to believe that this particular property belongs to the Waqf, and therefore the powers of the court cease to exist, and where this matter will go to the board, and board decision would be final, then it will go to the tribunal. No court would hear the appeal. However, in the constitution, if you have any grievance against any order or any arbitrariness, you have a right to go to the court, but here the court's power even were barred. So that is why by virtue of this amendment has been taken over. Point 1. Point 2, as you rightly said, you remember in Mahakumbh was claimed by somebody that, look, Mahakumbh is happening in the Waqf land, 1500 years old village, where when even the Islam has not come at that point of time, and 1954 the Waqf Act became then, but they claimed the ownership. So that distinction has to go. That is what Honorable Court says. When there is a dispute, then leaving that dispute, work by user means that there is a continuous ownership.
No, but there is a duplicity, and let's accept it that there is some sort of, treachery in this whole waqf by user clause when there is no activity of waqf happening. My question is that waqf by user also comes into play if you can establish that there are waqf activities happening on that land.
So that is what the 3-4 the limbs are there. One is the long-term usage. The long-term usage has to be established by virtue of documentation. Point one. No formal deed is there, that is understood. But like the traditional work, a work by user lacks official documentation, but that is continuously, like the Jama Masjid and other properties which are declared. Implied dedication is also one of the Shivani limb to it. Then irrevocable nature, which cannot be revoked, and the legal recognition given before the 1954-55. Those are the there is court.
Absolutely, there is no denying that there are properties. In fact, that is the canard being spread, that masjids, graveyards, mazars, those are actually being used for religious purposes, will be taken over. Actually, that's not happening at all. The question arises though, when vast acres of land, either that has no registration or has no Waqf use, is being claimed as Waqf by user, then questions will be asked, Manoj Yadav, because ultimately ये भारत की land है. ये प्राइवेट ये जो चैरिटेबल एंडाउमेंट है वो क्लेम नहीं कर सकते ना कि हम यूज कर रहे हैं तो हमारी हो गई, ऐसे नहीं होता है.
नहीं, बिल्कुल. देखिए, जो चैरिटेबल लैंड्स हैं या वक्फ की हैं या ट्रस्ट की हैं या किसी मठ की, वो सारी जमीनें जिस पर्पस से उसी पर्पस में इस्तेमाल होनी चाहिए. उसका अगर गलत इस्तेमाल हुआ है तो निश्चित तौर पे उस पर सख्त कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए. लेकिन मेरा सवाल है, आप कहेंगे कि आज आपके सवाल का ये जवाब नहीं है. इस सरकार को आखिर सिर्फ वक्फ की जमीन से ही क्यों प्यार है? इस सरकार को मठ, ट्रस्ट, जो तमाम सारे लोग कब्जेदारी करके अपना धंधा बिजनेस चला रहे हैं, उस पर नजर क्यों सरकार की नहीं गई? क्या पॉलिटिसाइज हो जाएगा क्या, या सरकार का नुकसान हो जाएगा? बड़ी तादाद में तो मुसलमान,
उनको तो इतनी पावर्स मिली नहीं है ना, इसलिए किसी मठ के पास तो ट्राइब्यूनल नहीं है.
किस पे पावर नहीं है
बताइए.
मैं कह रहा हूँ, एक उदाहरण दे रहा हूँ आपके चैनल पे. मेरे सवाल का जवाब आप पैनल में ले लेना या जनता से पूछ लेना. अगर मैं कहूँ कि राम मंदिर ट्रस्ट में मोहम्मद सलमान और मोहम्मद राशिद को भी स्थान होना चाहिए, तो क्या लगेगा? कोई करेगा? विरोध नहीं
तो
करेगा.
वो तो मंदिर चलाते हैं ना, कोर्ट का ऑर्डर है, ये प्रीवियस हाई कोर्ट का ऑर्डर है.
चर्च, वो
आप बात तो सुनिए, मैं जवाब दे रही हूँ आपकी बात का. आप मानते नहीं है, कोर्ट का ऑर्डर है, आप उसको नजरअंदाज कर देते हैं. कोर्ट का ऑर्डर है कि वक्फ की प्रॉपर्टीज को मैनेज करने का काम रिलीजियस नहीं है, वक्फ ट्राइब्यूनल का काम रिलीजियस नहीं है. और एक और चीज है, सुनिए, जो मंदिर मठ का काम है, अगर आप राम मंदिर की बात करते हैं, राम मंदिर का काम क्या है? राम मंदिर को चलाना. वो लैंड पे तो डिस्प्यूट नहीं देखते हैं. वो तो ये नहीं कहते कि अरे ये भी राम मंदिर का है, ये भी राम मंदिर का है, ये भी हमारा है, चेन्नई में भी हमारा है, केरला में भी हमारा है. वो तो नहीं करते है ना, वो अपना मंदिर चलाते हैं. वक्फ बोर्ड के पास जो पावर है और जो ट्राइब्यूनल है, वो तो राम मंदिर के पास नहीं है. राम मंदिर का केस कहां पे चला था? सिविल कोर्ट में चला था ना.
जवाब दूंगा मैं, जवाब
या हिंदू कोर्ट में चला था?
आपको मैं जवाब देता हूँ. जितने डिस्ट्रीब्यूट और जितनी ज्यादा भ्रष्टाचार इन ट्रस्टों में, मठों में है, आपको दूसरी जगह नहीं देखने को मिलेगा. अभी उसकी परतें
अब आप कह रहे हैं बिकॉज़ देयर इज ग्रेटर करप्शन इन ट्रस्ट एंड मठ्स.
कहां पे बात हो रही है?
Therefore don't, no, but you didn't answer my question. Deflection is not the solution here. You didn't answer my question. How does a property where there is no charitable work going on become Waqf by user?
आप जनता जानना चाहती है.
How is Parliament land today Waqf by user when there is no Waqf activity going on?
के हिसाब से थोड़ी नहीं दूंगा.
No, but you're not answering the issue being discussed in courts today.
ट्रस्ट में 2 लोगों को बना दो. अरे 2 पिछड़ों, 2 दलितों को ही बना देते, वो तो बनाया नहीं. वहां तो एक अपर क्लास का बिल्कुल वैक्यूम बना रखा है कि उसमें कोई इंटर न कर जाए.
No, absolutely, you make these arguments.
रिलीजियस प्रैक्टिस में आती हैं.
Mr. Yadav, आप मेरी बात सुनिए, लगातार मत बोलिए. You make these arguments. Please lower his audio. You will make these arguments in court. आप बिल्कुल कोर्ट के सामने ये आर्ग्यूमेंट रखिए, और रखी भी जाएगी कि नॉन मुस्लिम वक्फ बोर्ड में कैसे ऐड हुए जब बाकी ट्रस्ट और बोर्ड्स में नहीं है. यही आर्ग्यूमेंट है ना. बट आप घूम फिर के इस पे चले जाते हैं. जब मैं बात कर रही हूँ वक्फ बाय यूजर की, तो आप उस पर जवाब नहीं दे रहे. मैं बात कर रही हूँ तिरुचिंदराई की, मैं बात कर रही हूँ मुनम्बम की. वहां 4 जनरेशन से जो लोग रह रहे हैं, उनको आज आप बोल रहे हैं कि नहीं ये तो वक्फ की है. तो आप क्या कर रहे थे इतने 200 सालों से? लेट मी आस्क मिस्टर लक्ष्मण वंस अगेन. यू नो, देयर इज ऑल्सो दिस होल narrative building. Earlier there was a fear being spread that once this law comes, all Waqf property will be acquired by government and all Waqf claims will be taken over. Today the Kerala government is telling the Munambam residents that, see, we told you nothing will happen for you. So heads I win, tails you lose. Today they are telling people that this law has nothing for you. What the law has for them today is that they can go to court and challenge the Waqf claim, a right that was denied to them earlier. But earlier they told all Muslims of India that see, once this law comes into effect, all your properties will be taken over. But no, Munambam is still not settled. If that was the case, Munambam would have been settled in one swift swap, but it hasn't happened. That's the point I'm making. So many canards and fears being spread on the basis of this law, and governments are changing their stances case to case.
No, it's all politics. It's unfortunate that politics is also being played around this subject, and that's why now we will have a final solution once the Supreme Court comes out with its own ruling and the rules are notified and all. Then we will see this cases like this village in Tamil Nadu. There will be test cases. Yes. I'm sure the people who are living there for generations, who have documented proof of been paying receipts of various nature, taxes, they cannot just be evicted. And if at all, as the Mohammed, that person from the village, the Dargah manager, person claiming they have documentation, I'm sure it can be tested in a court of law. I mean, that's what.
Yes, so there is no denying that Waqf will produce its documents by 1954 Gazette, and residents will also have documents. So this is how the government system has cheated them, right? Because that land has been sold further and government is getting taxes on it. My basic question is, how is Waqf land being sold further? How is Waqf land being used for all other purposes but Waqf and charity? And why should nobody question it? The basic purpose of the Waqf land is charity. It is donation. It is help of fellow Muslims or all other fellow citizens. But all other activities are going on and then you claim them as Waqf.
Yeah, they are shooting themselves in the foot by doing these activities.
Exactly. Precisely. We've been discussing this. The Tiruchendurai case we had discussed quite prominently on Plain Speak 2 years ago. By making these claims, they have attracted the attention on Waqf claims. Mr. Mohan Yadav's question as to why you're doing this for Waqf properties is precisely because of these claims. I've run out of time. I do thank our guests for joining us. Coming up after a short break, Congress government left red-faced after Supreme Court pulled it up after its midnight bulldozer move in Hyderabad University forest land. Is the high-handed charge then valid against Revanth Reddy government? That's coming up.
What smart is
except they are much larger, and China wants what we have, what every country wants, what we have, the American consumer. Or to put it another way, they need our money. So the president, again, has made it quite clear that he's open to a deal with China, but China needs to make a deal with the United States of America.
Oh, okay. Yeah, oh, good. Nice to meet you.
Welcome back. Supreme Court has expressed serious concerns over large-scale felling of trees by the Telangana government in the Kacha Gachibowli area near the University of Hyderabad. The court took suo motu cognizance of the matter and questioned the state government about the urgency behind the deforestation. The court directed the Telangana wildlife warden to take immediate steps to protect the wildlife in affected areas. The court asked the state government to come up with a plan to restore the 100 acres of land that were cleared. And the court has also ordered any further tree felling activities to be halted till further notice. Pulling up the Revanth Reddy government, the Supreme Court observed that the question isn't really about which government is in power. If there's any self-certification that the government did on its own on what could happen on that land, then it's a violation of the Supreme Court's judgment. The Supreme Court also said that they're only concerned with the presence of bulldozers, as the Revanth Reddy government had already erased 100 acres of land without any permission, and that the government should have taken approval before any construction work was to begin. So the charge against the Revanth Reddy government so far by their political opponents and even the students and others who were fighting in this case is that it was handled in a very high-handed manner, that the government was unwilling to listen to anybody. Even students were arrested or pulled away as they were protesting on that forest land. So does that charge stand valid?
We, the Telangana state government, respects Supreme Court observations and questions regarding the Kanche Gachibowli lands in Hyderabad.
तेलंगाना की कांग्रेस सरकार भी जनता से किए वादे भूल गई। वहां कांग्रेस, वहां की सरकार जंगलों पर बुलडोजर चलवाने में व्यस्त है। प्रकृति को नुकसान, जानवरों को खतरा, यही है कांग्रेस की कार्यशैली।
The Congress government has been adamant, creating false news about the whole Kanche Gachibowli forest issue, but the Supreme Court has exposed the Congress government.
Let's go across to our guest joining us. Dinesh Chaudhary, spokesperson of the BRS, joining us, and Jaydhar Gupta is an environmentalist. Mr. Gupta, let me begin with you. Do you feel that this is a good precedent that the court has set? Because there was almost a sense that the government felt here it could do what it wanted to do and nobody could stop them. But the Supreme Court has drawn a red line for them.
Well, as an environmentalist, I'm all for protecting forests and eco-sensitive zones of India. I don't think people understand the value of these eco-sensitive zones. They're absolutely imperative. They are carbon sinks. They lead to rainwater harvesting and also filtration of water as it settles down into our groundwater zones. Just the fact that we want to continue to live with nature, there's an interdependence and a network of mutuality that's beneficial to everybody involved. The fact that we humans are being motivated more and more by greed and selfishness lately, and this is not just a Telangana issue. I think this is happening all over India.
Yes, which is why this will set a very good precedent before any other government thinks of doing this. Because the argument that has been presented, Dinesh Chaudhary, by the government, and it continues to say this again and again, is that this 10,000 crore rupee project is going to create 1 lakh jobs. So that entire development versus environment argument was brought in. Be that as it may, the question that the court also asked is that what were the due processes that you followed before you decided you could cut down trees on 100-acre land?
Yes, the Congress government has tried to bring up a failed argument that they are only trying for development of IT sector. But every Hyderabadi and any concerned person for the ecological stability of Hyderabad environment
has raised their voice against this issue, because those are the major lung spaces of Hyderabad, and you cannot destroy them on whims and fancies of the government, which has been elected only for 5 years. And regarding the Congress plan of development, they could have developed an IT park anywhere in the surrounding of Hyderabad, except for this part which houses the major ecological and environmental biodiversity of Hyderabad. So we have been saying from the first that you have ample land available from the pharmacity which we have previously acquired, or Revanth Reddy can shift this to his ambitious project, Fourth City, where he is even trying to lay down metro corridor. Why is he hell bent on destroying this place, which houses 735 species of plants, 235 species of birds and mammals, and many protected species of animals, including start out as a spotted deer, monitors, rock python, etc.
Let me ask that to Srinivas Reddy. Just hold your thought. Let me ask that to Srinivas Reddy, Congress spokesperson, also joining us. I did ask this when I discussed this earlier, that why is it that you are hell-bent on taking this land and all? As prime as it may be, there is a purpose that it serves in the IT city of Hyderabad of being a green lung. Why were you so keen to destroy that? Looks like we've lost that link. Yes, Mr. Dinesh Chaudhary, please continue. The government says now that it is not going to continue as far as the tree felling is concerned, that there will be a report submitted. Do you feel that the government may reconsider its entire plan or no?
No, even now, the Congress government in Telangana is still playing mischief, because when the Central Empowered Committee was inspecting those lands, they have hurriedly put up boards early in the morning stating that this land belongs to TGIAC. Till the previous day, there were no boards. And even when the Central Empowered Committee was inspecting the above said site, the students of Hyderabad Central University were not even allowed to speak to them or interact with the Central Empowered Committee by the Congress government, and the police brutally stopped them and detained them. Let us ask the present situation to Rahul Gandhi. He has previously objected to Mumbai's arrow tree felling and Hasdeo forest. But why is he silent on this? He has not even responded till yet.
Yes, well, convenient politics. Srinivas Reddy is joining us. Mr. Reddy, I was trying to ask you, are you going to reconsider now the use of this land, given what the Supreme Court has said?
Yeah, good evening. Actually, as a Chief Minister has wanted to, take up this land project, because it was adjacent to the present corridor, IT corridor, and it is a continuous patch of land, right from, if you are looking at the first phase of the high-tech city, which was there in Madhapur, from there it has gone to, Gachibowli, the financial district, and since it's a continuous process, it would be more easier for all the companies which are there, and for extension of all this, because of the infrastructure which is already there in the place. So their thought process was that this particular piece of land would be perfectly suitable for expansion of the IT corridor.
But at what cost, Mr. Reddy? The question was always at what cost? Other land could have been acquired, and my question is, would you now consider choosing other land, because the ecological impact, even the court has said, is going to be humongous for the city of Hyderabad?
Definitely, because we definitely have to abide by what the court says. We do respect the constitution, we do respect the courts. The Chief Minister has also stated that if required, this project would be moved and this would be made into a eco park.
The question that is arising, Mr. Reddy, the charge that the Congress government is facing is that the manner in which you handle this entire episode, arresting students or dragging them out, not listening to any concerns, not really presenting any report of why you think this land can be used or what are the offsets mechanisms for the ecological concern. None of that was presented. It was as if you've decided, so it is going to be the writ of the Chief Minister and therefore it's going to be done. The high-handedness with which the government has handled this, has the Supreme Court observation humbled you?
Actually, what happened was this particular piece of land was never classified as a forest, but as once the work has started over there, there was a lot of hue and cry, and definitely there were probably, since it is an extension to the existing Central University campus, definitely there would have been some flora, fauna, and animals which were there. So there was definitely some, since this land was never classified as a forest and it was always shown as, the government land.
I understand that, but the government land was a forest, even if it wasn't classified as a forest. Very quickly, Mr. Chaudhary wants to come in. I have 30 seconds. Yes, go ahead.
No, previously there was an epic judgment in 1996, Godavar Man versus Union of India, where they have clearly demarcated and said that a forest is any area with substantial tree cover, even if it is not officially recorded. Even after being aware of this judgment, the Congress government has gone in a high-handed manner and brought dozens of bulldozers when there were court holidays and raised the 100 acres of forest in the above said area. So this is their futile attempt to acquire that land while there were court holidays and auction them off to carry out their whatever projects in which they can get kickbacks.
Okay. Mr. Reddy, you want to respond to that?
Yes, this process was going on since I was in the Supreme Court has given a decision in favor of the state government, and it was not done overnight, as has been alleged by our friend from BRS. Earlier, what was the BRS government doing? They also wanted. They have done Neopolis, which is adjacent to the 111 GO. They wanted to do uranium mining in Nallamalai forest, in the reserve forest.
Uranium mining was brought forth by Congress. You should know that before bifurcation of the state also.
They are not talking about environment and ecology. What about sand mining? What about Kaleshwaram? What about the
Kaleshwaram has all the necessary clearances from the central government. Kaleshwaram has all the necessary clearance from central government.
Okay, one by one. Mr. Reddy, the charge even from the Supreme Court is that there were not enough permissions taken by your government to go ahead with the action that you took. You rushed it.
We have not rushed it, but definitely as far as the state government is concerned, we have taken some certain permissions from the Forest Department here, and all these things have been placed before the Honorable Supreme Court. So therefore, since the matter is now sub judice, it is not right for us to comment on that issue right now.
Mr. Dhar, final comment to you as well. What would your hope be when governments have to balance the ecological versus the developmental?
Well, as far as all our towns and cities are concerned, we've already created heat islands and made them unfit for human habitation. I think this is a great precedence. I don't want to get into the politics of it, but I think all political parties need to take note, and we need to absolutely preserve all of our wild habitats for selfish reasons, not feeding into the interests of a few political parties or developers or what it may be.
Right. On that note, I do thank all of our guests for joining us. Let's hope that this does act as a reminder to governments that high-handedness and actions like this will not be tolerated, especially when it comes to the quality of life of Indian citizens. So, on that note, time for me to take your leave. Thanks a lot for watching.
Europe today, I think, realizes the importance of deeper ties with India and the relevance of the FTA for that purpose. I expect the pace to pick up with Europe. We have an aspirational goal. We'd like to close out the FTA this year.
The United States is trying to reset the rules of the game. In some sense, it's a good omen for India because it opens up huge opportunities. If India did not import the crude oil that we got from Russia and we were standing in the international market the price of oil for the whole world would have increased to probably $300 per barrel. Thanks to India importing oil from Russia in large measure, we were able to bring stability to the crude oil prices.
You can buy oil from anywhere. If your policies are sound, what you turn around and say, I will issue a tender at the point of importation, जिसके बाद माल है आके supply कर जाए. That is why we are successful.
श्रीनगर को और जम्मू को जोड़ने का, ये रेल से जोड़ने का, ये एक बहुत बड़ा सपना है देश का. और इस सपने को प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने अपनी बहुत स्ट्रांग संकल्प के साथ, this is a project which required tremendous tenacity, tremendous design work, lots and lots of engineering inputs were there.
हम जो अभी टोल देना पड़ता है अनेक बार, तो हम लोग उस सिस्टम को ही पूरा अध्ययन करके हम उसको बदल रहे हैं.
तो टोल बढ़ेगा, कम हो जाएगा?
100% कम होगा.
100% कम, जीरो हो जाएगा?
नहीं. जो लोग आज टोल भर रहे हैं वो एकदम खुश हो जाएंगे, उनकी कोई तकरार नहीं रहेगी.
Except they are much larger, and China wants what we have, what every country wants, what we have, the American consumer. Or to put it another way, they need our money. So the president, again, has made it quite clear that he's open to a deal with China, but China needs to make a deal with the United States of America.
Oh, okay. Yeah, oh, good. Nice to meet you.
except they are much larger. And China wants what we have, what every country wants, what we have, the American consumer. Or to put it another way, they need our money. So the president, again, has made it quite clear that he's open to a deal with China, but China needs to make a deal with the United States of America.
Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I am Anand Narsimhan. The Enforcement Directorate has filed a charge sheet against the Congress leaders Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi and others, members of the Congress party again, on charges of money laundering under the PMLA, and this is in the National Herald case. CNN News 18 has accessed the Enforcement Directorate note that could eventually find its way into the charge sheet. This shows entire flow of transactions. Young Indian was incorporated as an SPV, Special Purpose Vehicle, on the 23rd of November